This is Michael Wolf, Federal Labor Relations Authority. I am the Senior Dispute Resolution Specialist in the Collaboration and Alternative Dispute Resolution Office, the acronym for which is CADRO. The Federal Labor Relations Authority was established in 1978 to promote stable, constructive labor management relations in the federal government. We help resolve labor disputes by exercising leadership, guidance, and offering adjudication in a manner that gives full effect to the collective bargaining rights of employees, unions, and agencies. Collaboration and ADR techniques are ingrained throughout the tradition established in the FLRA culture. Collaboration and ADR are institutionalized in the FLRA through the establishment of the CADRO office, which was formed in 1996. ADR has renewed emphasis throughout the Federal Labor Relations Authority. Our recent updates to the arbitration regulations contain a specific reference to the use of ADR. Our impasses panel, in the way it resolves collective bargaining impasses, utilizes such ADR techniques as meet-arb and mediation, which really reflects a return to its founding principles. Our Office of General Counsel strongly encourages parties to settle their matters and utilizes ADR techniques to help them do so. And the authority also plays an active role on the National Council as it supports the Executive Order 13522. The National Council on Federal Labor Management Relations, among other things, provides support for training, system design, and various services that have at its roots alternative dispute resolution. The Collaboration and Alternative Dispute Resolution Office of the FLRA is primarily responsible for three functions. First, to help parties resolve complex labor disputes. We do so by offering intervention services to many parties throughout the year. I'll tell you more about that in just a little bit. We also help improve the problem-solving relationship between labor and management through our offer of facilitation services, training, and various outreach services. And the third leg of our stool at CADRO is to help parties grow collaborative workplace cultures. This goes beyond skills training. It really goes to the heart of the relationship. How can we help parties turn conflict into collaboration? And at the same time, help both parties better accomplish the legitimate interests that bring them to the table. A very important element here. We do so by offering support through the National Council to these developing labor management relations under the Executive Order, and help parties develop their forums and partnerships nationwide. The CADRO caseload is somewhat limited by the number of staff that we have available for our CADRO services. Virtually all of the national office attorneys who are assigned to the three members participate in one way or another in providing CADRO services as an adjunct duty to their primary function, working for the three members. We have only one full-time equivalent position established in our CADRO office right now due to limited funding. So we're only able to handle about 65 to 80 cases a year, half of which are intervention and the other half of which are facilitation, training, outreach, and support of the Executive Order. In the arena of our intervention work, our cases are dominated by negotiability disputes. We resolve about 200 negotiability issues per year. In addition to that, the next largest segment is really split between helping parties resolve exceptions to arbitrator awards, helping parties complete their collective bargaining agreements, and helping labor and management achieve lasting solutions when their leadership sits down in an effort to try to solve problems and make decisions. All CADRO services are offered on a voluntary basis. If either party opts out, then they return to the normal traditional queue and wait their turn for adjudication or whatever other service they might have in front of them. But utilizing CADRO, we find that we're able to greatly expedite the resolution of their disputes. In our intervention services, we count the amount of time from beginning to end in weeks, not months, not years. And as a matter of fact, I believe that the average case doesn't stay in CADRO more than about 6 weeks and is completed. Now, in conjunction with that, we achieve somewhere between 85 and 95% resolution rate of the cases that we receive in CADRO. So parties get done quickly and they get done successfully. They engage in a way that minimizes their risks, minimizes also the risk of future engagement, because if they don't get things resolved collaboratively, they still stay in the queue to head on down the line towards an adjudication type resolution. In CADRO, we help improve their opportunities, the parties' opportunities, to satisfy their legitimate interests, meaning to really solve the problems that gave rise to the conflict to begin with, rather than simply massaging a dispute and resolving legal issues. We do more than that, and that's what keeps the parties coming back. The CADRO process is confidential, both internal and external, meaning that whatever information we receive under the umbrella of CADRO is not voluntarily shared either with others in the FLRA or anybody outside without the express permission of the parties. And when we work with parties in caucus, nothing is shared to persons outside that caucus without the express permission of those in the caucus. It's a very informal process, and we find that helps improve parties' relationships overall, as well as expedites resolution. Finally, another benefit of utilizing CADRO services is that we find it creates value by reducing transaction costs for both agencies and unions, and ultimately for the public as well. The FLRA only finds arbitration awards deficient based on grounds set forth in 5 U.S.C. 7122. Specifically, an arbitration award will be found deficient only if it's contrary to law, rule, or regulation, of course governing regulation, or if it's deficient on grounds applied by federal courts in reviewing arbitration awards in the private sector. We handle a whole plethora of issues. The ones you see on the screen is just a sample of some of the real issues we've handled over the past couple of years. A lot of times parties are skeptical about whether sitting down trying to work it out will have any chance of success. And one reason why I give you the bullet list you see on the screen is to demonstrate that even those issues which parties feel like are absolutely impossible, and they feel like they're working with someone across the table who's absolutely intractable, we still find that the parties get the job done under CADRO. And in fact, a very large percentage of parties indicate initially that they have no interest in using our services when they first come to the FLRA. But after giving it a try, they realize, wow, this really makes a difference. We were able to exceed our own expectations. And of course, that's how CADRO then exceeds parties' expectations. Now, in the area of arbitration exceptions, the private sector grounds that we currently recognize at the FLRA include the following. The award is incomplete or ambiguous or contradictory as to make it impossible to implement, or the arbitrator is biased, or the award is contrary to public policy, or the arbitrator denied the parties a fair hearing. It's also reviewable if the award is based on non-facts, if the award fails to draw its essence from the parties' collective bargaining agreement, and if the arbitrator exceeded his or her authority. You'll find these requirements based in 5 CFR 2425.6. I'd like to give you several examples that might help relate what we do in the CADRO office to what you do in your professional life. First, a few arbitration exceptions cases. In this first case, it's a very recent case. An agency asked the FLRA to resolve its exceptions to an arbitrator's award of more than $26,000 in attorney's fees. The attorney's fees were incurred in the successful pursuit of a corrected performance rating that resulted in a cash award to the grievant. The agency accepted or took exception to the arbitrator's merits award, but that was dismissed, and so all that was pending before the authority was the exceptions to that portion of the award concerning the attorney's fees. In that regard, the agency contended that the arbitrator exceeded her authority, was biased, and denied the agency a fair hearing. The union was quite skeptical about using CADRO and very reluctant about even initiating the process. In fact, before arriving at FLRA headquarters, the union privately announced that it was unwilling to spend much time on this case or move much on the money. The union said unless the agency was willing to give it at least what the arbitrator ordered, that minimum $26,000, that there was nothing more to really find worthwhile to talk about. From our analysis of the case, the union's position was understandable. The arbitrator carefully constructed her attorney's fees award to satisfy the authority's NADC criteria and the 5-prong Allen test. In the agency's words, and these were the agency's words, its strongest argument was to beg the union for mercy. Now, the union had a bullet list of reasons why it was not in a merciful mood. The case almost fell apart early on when the agency wanted to make an opening offer of less than $5,000. Nonetheless, by mid-afternoon, we helped the parties execute a full settlement agreement resolving all issues and resulting in withdrawal of the agency's exceptions, which it did on the spot. Within a week afterwards, the agency transferred more than several multiples of its opening position to the union's bank routing number. And for the union's part, it moved far more than what it led us to expect before we started. It was willing to agree to something that was not what it said before we began the process. I believe that the union was very straightforward with us in what it said early on. Nevertheless, the outcome was different. Now, we learned something from each one of these cases we do, and in this case in particular, it helped remind us that we really must look outside the four corners of the case file to find the tools that are necessary to help parties resolve their charges, their exceptions, their impasses, their petitions. Parties are influenced by their perceived risks and opportunities, but they're also influenced by the external factors, such as the politics that surround the case. Now, in this case, the FLRA lacked a quorum at the time the parties paid a visit to us. And there was no indication from the Senate as to when a quorum would be established. Without a quorum, the authority can render no decisions. So how long would the union's case be sitting, waiting, stacking up behind and as part of what could be a very long, multi-year possibly list of cases to decide? And there was at that time also the looming threat of sequestration that eventually occurred. But it was written, we saw the handwriting on the wall, we knew it was going to happen. I believe the parties were influenced also by that eventuality that they could see. Now there's another element too that influenced the parties' settlement in this case, and that was their ongoing relationship. The representatives of these parties had known each other for at minimum 8 to 10 years, and they knew each other well. There also was a relationship between the mediator at FLRA, me, and the parties. In fact, in the prior 12 months, I had helped the parties resolve a negotiability case that involved dozens and dozens and dozens of assertions of non-negotiability by the agency that the parties fully resolved without waiting in line for the authority to render or adjudicate any one of them. The parties then worked with CADRO to resume bargaining their collective bargaining agreement governing headquarters employees and fully resolve that after it had been stalled out for a couple of years. So everybody at the table had some relationships with each other, professional relationships, that contributed to a resolution. These next several cases are much shorter than the first. In this second case, an agency and a union recently sought CADRO assistance concerning the remedy phase of an 8-year-old dispute concerning premium pay. A 2005 arbitration award failed to resolve the dispute, as did a second award from the same arbitrator in 2007. Now, they were both good awards. In fact, in 2010, the second award withstood authority review of exceptions to the arbitrator's award, so that in 2012, the case was still churning. The agency had gone through 4 representatives. The union, at least a couple, had inherited it. And in 2012, the union filed a ULP charge concerning the agency's asserted failure to properly implement the 2007 award. The union agreed to withdraw that charge only after the parties jointly agreed to use CADRO intervention services. During that CADRO session, we helped the parties resolve the single remedy issue that they sought CADRO assistance on. However, afterwards, the parties immediately scheduled future CADRO sessions to help them continue making progress towards concluding this matter. Now, that's still a big undertaking. The ultimate resolution requires determinations on almost 900 positions, and might require even a special act of Congress to provide for the funds necessary in order to allocate back pay to all those who are entitled. The parties continue to work at this diligently. They've already resolved almost half of all the positions in dispute and are making very good progress on the rest of the case. So they have a lot to be proud of. In the final arbitration exception case I want to tell you about, an agency suspended 2 employees for misconduct. Now, the union chose to arbitrate both disciplinary actions, but they did so separately. And in arbitration number 1, the arbitrator reduced the penalty to a letter of reprimand, and that was for the more culpable of the 2 employees. Arbitrator number 2 upheld the suspension issued to the less culpable employee. The union then filed exceptions to the decision of arbitrator number 2, and the parties agreed to use Cadro services to try to resolve the exceptions. While setting up the initial Cadro session, the agency attorney acknowledged that this case concerned a good employee. Local labor and management have a good relationship. Management really cares about how their employees perceive the outcome of the two disciplinary actions and the relative, or the relationship between the two. And management really wanted to send the right message to other employees. We used these dynamics to encourage the parties to consider its options and to reach out to the union as well to negotiate a solution. This set the stage for the parties to agree during the initial Cadro session to reduce the penalty to a letter of reprimand. The union promptly agreed to withdraw its exceptions. The agency felt like it accomplished the legitimate interests that it came to Cadro for, and the parties had a complete resolution within just a few weeks of when the case first came to us. I'm going to jump ahead a little bit here. In Cadro, we also, in addition to our intervention services, we spend quite a few resources helping parties build effective workplace relationships. In their bargaining relationship, we help them learn traditional bargaining as well as interest-based bargaining. And after their contract bargaining process is over, as they're implementing and working out problems and seeking solutions, we also teach them how to use interest-based problem solving as a very critical tool to manage their relationships. Now, this is not only true for term bargaining, but also for midterm and B1 issues as well. B1 is an area of permissive bargaining in the federal sector. I'm also quite active with the National Council on Federal Labor Management Relations in helping work with labor and management parties that need some help in implementing Executive Order 13522. Our facilitation and training services have been offered and delivered to many, many parties over the last several years. And as I told you early on, Cadro has been in existence since 1996. So we've offered our services to many, many agencies and unions, which you see is just a sampling of just the last couple of years, and there are many more. Now, in addition to the external services, one last area of endeavor for Cadro is internal capacity building. I work with the attorneys at the FLRA to help share with them skill building in the area of facilitation and training. I do some mentoring. I also work as an informal internal ombudsperson to help with our own intervention cases and our own internal collaboration processes. So like every other entity, we have some areas we target for growth, and one of them is to improve our involvement in arbitration exceptions cases. We really believe that there's room for growth here, room for opportunity to get involved in more cases, and we look forward to doing so. So if we were in an interactive session right now, this would be the time when I'd ask you to offer some questions, some discussion, and to teach me some important things too, which is part of the reason why I do this. If you look at the bottom of your screen, you'll see my email address, mwolf@flra.gov. I encourage you to contact me, and maybe we can have some chats on the phone or some conversation by email so that we can engage in ways that we can't otherwise do when we're not both online at the same time. Our goal at the FLRA CADRO office is to exceed expectations. In today's world, it's not sufficient to merely meet them. We find that we most often exceed parties' expectations by helping them quickly resolve their disputes in ways where their legitimate interests are better served, and by also helping them grow strong, effective workplace relationships that are sustainable and that help accomplish the mission more effectively, help improve quality of work life for those accomplishing the mission, provide the union with a stronger, legitimate voice in workplace matters, and thereby make a difference. That's why we're there. Thank you very much for giving me some of your day. I look forward to an opportunity for CADRO to offer something to your day as well. Please contact me at the email address below. Please feel free to share this with whomever might be interested. I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you very much.